Welcome back to Everyday Economics, a podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. We are recording this episode on Friday, February 17th. And joining me, as always, is Dr. Orphe Divounguy. He's a PhD economist. Dr. O, the housing market is throwing off some very interesting information, as it often does. And my goodness, one of the things that you and I like to do for sport is to send each other the most, hyperbolic links to the quote-unquote real estate analysts that roam around on YouTube and other such social channels. The vast majority of these shows come with titles in gigantic font block letters and pictures of flames behind it, and it's always Armageddon.
Every day is the end of the world on YouTube.
Look, you're cool hand, Luke, when it comes to making sense of what's going on in the market. With this episode, let's talk about the two things that are kind of on your mind. One, you're encouraged somewhat by what you're seeing in terms of home builder confidence. And two, despite what's being written, and I see this story being written the other way or being produced, especially on YouTube the other way, where, rents are going through the roof. You're actually seeing some rent decline. So
nationwide rents are declining. Where house prices go, rents follow. That's basic, just based on intuition. If you think about a landlord having a choice between selling their home or renting it out, the rent has to compensate the landlord sufficiently for not selling the home if he's going to put it up for rent, right? And so when we saw prices increase a lot, rents had to go up. Now you have people choosing not to move. Housing demand has come down substantially due to many factors around the uncertainty around the macroeconomic environment, for example. The fact that inflation was really high and that consumers have been squeezed, the Fed's been raising rates, and the labor market's cooling, and you don't know if you're going to have a job. So a lot of people are staying put. And of course, that means that rents are also going to be declining. And so we're seeing that already. Rents, especially in places that saw massive increases during the pandemic, rents are going to come down, and they're already coming down.
Where are you seeing that? What markets do you feel like, where the value is starting to return for the benefit of the renter?
All the places that I saw massive increases during the pandemic, right? So like the Austin, Texas and the Boise, Idahos, and right?
Is this more of a decompression from like an overheated housing market? Is that the way?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's exactly that, right? So rent peaked 17% year over year, I think in February, down to like 6% now. Year over year. Big rent disinflation is underway. And so that's good. It's going to give people a little bit of breathing room. In fact, the Zillow Observed Rental Index, or ZORI, leads the rent components in this consumer price index. And that helps us to, that helps me believe and be pretty optimistic that CPI should come down some more this year. And so that's good. That's good news. The second thing about the housing market that people need to know is that it was too hot. It was unhealthy. It's normalizing now. It's getting back to healthy. It's slowly, but it's happening, right? You need an inventory. You can't sell or buy anything if there's nothing on the market to buy, right? Inventory started to tick up a little bit again, especially in those places that were too expensive. And that inventory growth is going to support home buying activity because there are still buyers out there. There are buyers that were outbid during the pandemic that are trying to get back in the housing market and get that home. There were buyers that after being outbid, they faced massive mortgage rate increases in 2022. Those mortgage rates actually came down from September. They went down for 4 consecutive months. And all of a sudden, right, they started to trickle up again. And they're trickling up because of the news we got last week on the inflation front, which is basically inflation declined a little bit less than expected, right? And so that's pushing mortgage rates up. But ultimately, when it comes down to builder sentiments, builders are seeing this activity. Builders are also seeing that disinflation that's going on, right? The cost of materials and the cost of labor is rising at a slower pace, right? And so that's good for builders. And so that's why builder sentiment's ticking up. Now, I'm a little bit worried still because housing starts it down. Housing starts it down year over year, some crazy amount. I can't remember exactly.
Let's tie those two things together and talk about it. So, and again, I think for the benefit of the people that may be listening to us for the first time, when you talk about economics, you Dr. Orphe Divounguy, are talking about the economic activity of people. What are you seeing in terms of the builder sentiment, sort of the reality of the permitting for home starts?
Yeah. So builder sentiment reflect the fact that, the pace of price increases of their cost increases might actually be coming down. And so that, if builders were really worried about their profits evaporating, having too many homes on the market that they couldn't get rid of, right? Builder sentiment would continue to come down. And I think they're like, okay, we may be able to weather the storm. And so you see builder sentiment ticking up a little bit. Housing starts, on the other hand, are down. And housing starts really tell me that builders don't expect, where builders expect demand is going to be in 7 to 12 months. Because they start now, the house is going to be ready in 8 months from now or 12 months from now. And housing starts are down tells you that basically builders don't expect demand to be as robust 8 to 12 months from now, right? And so that's why they're not starting new constructions anymore. They're focused on finishing the ones that they've already started to build. And so, and I think that's what's going on. So that's the part that it's kind of sad, because we still have a massive housing unit deficit in this country. It's just the macroeconomic environment, the uncertainty is causing home buyers to pull back. It's caused existing homeowners to pull back as well, right? They're locked into low mortgage rates. And it's also causing builders to pull back.
Well, I appreciate your insights as always. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.